collaborate more is what you want.
Collaborate more, brainstorm more, teach me web design.
Listen, teach me what AlphaFold is and how to disentangle proteins. We got a deal. Hey, Jayme Warischalk, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Let's give a little bit of introduction to Jayme. She's one of my favorite people. She is a scientific director at BOLDSCIENCE, where we work together. A bit more on that in a moment. But she earned a triple major in 3 years at University of Tampa. Then you went on to get your master's at UPenn studying protein folding, which is like another crazy topic. Hopefully we can get into in a way that I won't be lost. And then you got your pharmacology PhD at UNC.
I did. Go here.
Let me see if I get this right. It was a protein strategy to assist with the treatment of cardiovascular and musculoskeletal disease.
That's mostly right. Like that you did your homework. It was AAV gene therapy. It was figuring out a way to make AAV gene therapy specific for cardiovascular and musculoskeletal disease.
If I were like a 10-year-old, how would you describe what you do for a living?
I feel like it's very hard to explain what someone who works at a medical communications agency does. I think essentially what we do is we help pharmaceutical companies figure out the story that they want to tell about their product, and how to tailor that story to different audiences, such as doctors or patients or even corporate investors, and what content they need to put out into the public so that they can assure that story is effectively told.
One of the ways that I've been telling my kids about this is we get to tell the science story, like the how does this work part of the medicines that are out there that are saving lives. And it's one of those things where I'm actually working at a company where every day I'm contributing to kind of the betterment of humanity. Is this what you had imagined doing growing up?
I did always want to be a writer my whole life, but I did not imagine that I was going to be. I mean, I basically am a writer now, but I didn't imagine it was going to be in this capacity.
I'd imagine, though, in school, there must be some kind of figurative fork in the road, right? Where I'm going to school for this, I'm getting a pharmacological PhD. How do you decide which way you go? Because I think there's research that you could have gone also, and probably other routes. How did you end up with medical writing?
When I was working on my PhD, my plan was to stay in research. And I love doing research. I would go back now if there was an easy way to balance it with my life. But one of my favorite parts of graduate school was when I got to present my research, because, I had to sort of dig down and see like how my data were connected and what story I could tell about them, and then present it to an audience, either, via PowerPoint presentation at a Congress, or written up as an article, for a journal. That was the most satisfying part of grad school to me, and when I felt like I was in a flow. So then fast forward to the end of grad school, I got pregnant with my daughter in my final year there. And I was looking for a work from home opportunity, at least while she was an infant. And my goal was to go back to research, but I found a work from home opportunity as an editor for scientific journal articles. And I really enjoyed editing those papers. And then that company opened a new little division where they were making science explainer videos, and they asked me to write the scripts for those videos. And I loved doing that. So I just kind of took that and ran with it and ended up in medcoms.
What was it about that you loved?
I really love finding an exciting way to tell a story that I just love putting words to something. The goal of that job was to take, research articles from academic journals and rewrite them into short scripts that an educated lay audience could understand. So it was to foster appreciation of, new research that was coming out. And it was just really fun to figure out, how can you grab an audience? What words can you say to get them interested in this topic? And then how can you convey this story in a way that they'll understand it and stay engaged with it?
I've counted 4 times that you've said the word story,
Yes.
right? And it's really it's really fun because story is not typically a word you hear when it comes to science. Tell me more about that relationship to story, and what are some of the ways that you realize, oh, that's a story.
Oh gosh, that's a hard question, Mark. I don't know. I mean, I love like consuming the written word, be it fiction or nonfiction. I just love reading. And so I guess there's joy in also being able to put that out in the world, that
Mm,
same sort of idea. As far as I think the second part of your question was like, when are you looking at something, you're like, that's the story. That's a hard thing to explain. I don't know if there's like a moment that I can say.
how about this? Is there a feeling? And if so, what is that feeling?
I mean, there is a feeling when like, let's say I've read this article and I'm gonna have to summarize it now for a video script. So there's like a period of time where I'm just thinking about what to write. And I'm not like sitting at my desk thinking about it usually. It'll be like when I'm walking my dogs or like, just doing something else. So my brain is working somehow in the background. And then it's like, oh, yes, that's the way to frame it. That's the lead statement that I'm going to go with for this video script that's going to get someone interested.
This podcast, this unboxing creatives podcast, is really spiritually targeted toward my kids, who are young adults already, and I want them to understand that creativity comes in all forms, in all different professions. What are some things that you do to get you into those kind of shower thoughts moments where you realize that there's some kind of connection happening in your brain?
For me personally, I feel like creativity does not often happen when I'm sitting and looking at a screen. Um, and it actually worries me about like today's world because we spend so much time, all of us, including me, looking at
Right.
screens. But it's usually when I just take a break, go outside, give my brain, a break. So I'm not telling my brain to think about something. I'm just letting it work on its own.
So what do you do if you're away from the computer and then all of a sudden it hits you? Like how do you record it? Do you run back with the dog to the house? Do you like how do you go about recording that?
I leave myself voice memos on my phone.
There you go.
I actually used to do that a lot when I was writing scripts. Like if I thought of like the sentence I wanted to lead with, I would just like say it
Oh.
on my phone really fast and then
Do you have like a catalog of old voice memos that you've given yourself, or do you delete them? Or
no, I delete them. I don't have a catalog. Yeah.
it would be fun, right? Just go back and listen to old ideas and like, no, that wasn't a good idea, or like, oh, that was a great idea. So speaking uh to us working together, because we've worked together for about almost 2 years now, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and it's been an honor. You're one of the few scientists and PhDs um, who has worked inside of Figma. Can you talk to me a little bit about working inside of Figma? What is it that you do? What are the parts that get you kind of like excited, and what's the advantage of that as someone who's a medical director?
Well, I will say that I think, I have limited knowledge of how to work in Figma, and I'm eager to learn more, and I totally would.
It'll come.
So, practically speaking, it's easy for me to go in and see the writing and layout and to then just, amend the writing right there in layout. I feel like writing looks different in a Word document than it does in a creative layout. And it's sometimes easier, to elevate it once you see it like that.
What do you wish the creative folks in your career could do better? Or if they're doing it well, what do you wish they could do more of to make your job easier?
That's a good question, aside from giving me Figma access. Um, I mean, I love working with you, and I love working with all the creative folks at Bold. My favorite times working with you are when, we're actively kind of developing something together, like when we developed, certain websites together, and, seeing how you approach the design and thought around how to convey certain pieces of content, and then allowing me to weigh in and thoughtfully, taking in any suggestions I have and just seeing it iterate and evolve. It's very satisfying to me, and one of the things I really love about this job.
So collaborate more is what you want.
Collaborate more, brainstorm more, teach me web design.
Listen, teach me what AlphaFold is and how to disentangle proteins. We got a deal. I think we're kind of skirting along the edge of another aspect of this conversation, which is there is a misconception that being in the sciences might not have a lot of opportunity for kind of traditional creativity, rather. What are some other misconceptions that there might be around what you do for a living?
I feel like most people have no idea what medical communications professionals do for a living. So I don't even know if there is really a conception around it.
Oh, that's funny.
But I will say I was thinking about the misconceptions related to just scientific research in general, because I think there are misconceptions that that's sort of a dry career or boring or not very creative. I think especially, when you're doing research to get a PhD, it's inherently creative because you need to discover something new about the world in order to get the degree. So it requires a lot of creativity to figure out what question you might want to ask, and then to determine how you're going to answer that question. And invariably, the results that you get from these experiments don't exactly answer the question. So then you have to think about what they are telling you. That's sort of an iterative process until you get to a final, coherent set of data that you can share with the world.
So when did you realize that you had a knack for doing what you're doing, a knack for science and a knack for being able to tell a story and finding that new angle on the data?
I've always been a writer in some capacity. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a poet for a while, and then I wanted to be a novelist, and then I wanted to be a journalist. I still kind of want to be a journalist, but maybe when I retire. I actually started college as an English major, and then I switched to science because I realized how creative it is. Yeah.
But, do you remember the moment where it was like, oh, scientific, the scientific study can be creative? Was there a class? Was there a moment? Was there an experiment? What was it?
I don't know if there was a moment per se, but I had started off in English, and I think early classes, when you're an English major, are a lot of sort of literary focused essay writing classes, and not necessarily at that stage creative writing, exciting classes. And I was also taking just the general requirements for biology and chemistry. And I think during my lab work, especially in my chemistry lab, I just really started to enjoy what the scientific, method is, asking a question, being able to answer it. I didn't do anything groundbreaking in college, but it was appealing, and it opened my eyes to how we have, as humanity, discovered more and more about the world with these baby steps over time.
You talked about innovations through college. One of the other things that I saw was that you're a part of 3 patents. Is that right?
It's 1 patent, but it's been it exists in several countries. So it's filed in the EU and Japan and the US. So it looks like 3, but it's 1.
So when I hear patents, it's very structured. It's kind of like the posters and the SRDs that we're involved with on the MedCom side. There's got to be something of a creative process in locking down a patent, or maybe there isn't. I mean, you tell me. What was it like from a creative standpoint, contributing toward getting that patent through?
So the patent was a culmination of my PhD research. So most people end up with a journal article or two, and I ended up with a patent instead.
Oh, wow. Is that
Yeah.
rare or is that? Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's less common. Um, and I'm happy with how that went down. But I would say, because it was a culmination of my PhD research, it required a lot of creativity to just sum up my research and to finally see relationships between all these disparate data sets that I got. It took a long time, and a lot of creative thinking to try to see these relationships and pull them together in a way that made sense.
Have you found that rigor and creative in your creative process present in your everyday life as a parent too?
I mean, I think you definitely have to be creative to be a parent, because you're trying to get small human beings to, do what you need them to do. And they're smart, and they will certainly, find creative ways out of doing what you need them to do. So you have to kind of match them.
What would 8-year-old Jayme say to you now?
I would have told myself to take some time to really just explore the world and think about what it is that I want to do. I feel like, you go through high school, I entered college, I was an overachiever. So, I got a triple major because I took classes through summers. Then I went to grad school and then I worked. And I wish I had had just a year or two where I slowed down and just explored the world. And I think that I don't know what my path would have been had I done that.
Let's say your kids watch this video 10 years from now and they're in high school, approaching college. What advice do you have for them about being creative in finding their path?
Hmm. What I want for my kids is to not feel like they have to take a path that meets my expectations or society's expectations. I really want them to explore what makes them happy. And I think my kids are very creative. I think all children are very creative. And I think, you kind of lose that as you grow up. And I just want them to continue to, enjoy their imagination and not get sucked in to corporate life necessarily, like keep some space where they can explore the things that interest them.
Jayme, scientific director, web designer in Figma, storyteller, and of course, mom. I want to say thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. Thanks for the advice for my kids. And hopefully, maybe let's do this again a year from now, and we'll see how you've advanced with your Figma skills and creative process. I'll see you on Teams. I'll see you on Microsoft Teams.
All right. Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.